Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Ritterspa, and I'm from Great Lakes Brewing Company, and I'm coming to you from my home just west of Cleveland. We want to thank all of you for joining us. As Michael was saying, this is the new normal, broadcasting from our home. But that's not going to stop us from talking about beer and drinking beer and sharing beer with you. And that's why we wanted to try something different, and that was to stream a hop college class. We normally do our hop college classes at the brewery, but we thought we'd be fun to bring you a special mini one. I see Michael showing you the class that you usually get. But today, I'm very excited. Our topic is none other than Dortmunder Gold.
Oh yeah.
That's right. And joining me is, he is our education coordinator. He is a certified Cicerone, is Mr. Michael Williams. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing just fine.
Good.
Thanks for asking, friend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining me. I'm really excited to be cracking open these beers with you and talking a little bit about Dortmunder.
Virtual beers are better than no beers at all.
That's exactly right. You know, that's what we always say at the brewery.
That's what we say.
Virtual beers are better than no beers at all. If you are at home and you want to join us, please crack open a bottle or a can now and
Just
join us.
We're
going to talk about the background, the history, and the tasting notes of our flagship lager. If you don't have any beer with you, remember our brew pub is currently open and operating on a delivery and to-go service around the Cleveland area. Find that information at greatlakesbrewing.com/to-go. Or if you're outside of Cleveland, you can always track down our beer on your next beer run using our beer finder. You can find that at greatlakesbrewing.com/beer-finder. So, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about what you do at the brewery.
So we all have fun jobs at the brewery. We all work in beer. I consider my job especially fun because my job is to teach everybody everything there is to know about beer. It's nice to get paid to do that kind of thing, especially when you're already passionate about it. So whether you are a new hire at the company and it's your first day, or if you work for one of our business partners like the distributor or retailer, or even if you're someone like you who's watching out there from one of our fans, one of our longtime customers, or is just interested to know more about Great Lakes, I kind of face everybody and teach everything there is to know about beer, about brewing beer, and then especially, of course, about Great Lakes Brewing Company, our rich history, our own processes, and then most importantly, everything that goes into making our beers and the great stories behind our beers as well. So,
and you also oversee, of course, the Hop College classes that are available for the public. Can you talk a little bit about what those Hop College classes are like and what they can expect?
Absolutely. Those are one of my favorite things that I get to do is basically in a public Hop College class, and we call anything Hop College that deals with beer education throughout the company. So all of our internal classes, we call them Hop College too. So what's cool about these public versions of the classes and what you guys are getting a little taste of right here is that these are basically little snippets of what our internal staff gets trained with. So we obviously value our staff more than anybody else and invest in them a ton. So it's a really, really cool opportunity for all of you out there to get a sneak peek of the training that we give our own staff. And you know, we've been around for 32 years now, so we've learned a thing or two about beer brewing throughout the years. So we are extremely excited and happy to share that depth of knowledge with everybody out there who's interested. Whether you're a beginner, we have a Beer 101 class, which covers the basics of beer and brewing. We have a number of other classes that take a little bit of a deeper dive. We have a style history class and kind of explores the history of specific styles. You guys are getting a little taste of that here today. And then we also look through, of course, tasting notes and drink beer and taste it too. And other great classes like sensory analysis class, where we learn kind of how to talk about what we're tasting. Maybe something seems a little off to you, what that might be. We have a beer and food pairing class, which is a little bit different from a beer dinner, where it's a little bit more instructional and educational to learn about what makes a really good beer and food pairing. We'll actually probably be offering a little bit of these snippets to you guys throughout the coming weeks here while we're a little bit more stationary and at home. So
That's right.
pretty pumped to be able to do that with you guys. And I'm really excited about, especially that beer and food pairing.
Yes. And if you've never done a hop college class, highly recommended. They are so much fun. Typically small class sizes, nice and personal. You get plenty of beer. And Michael and the staff that he works with, they are a wealth of knowledge. You will learn a lot. It's a lot of fun. We will announce when things kind of get back to normal, our public hop college classes on our website and our social media pages. So keep an eye out on there. With that all out of the way, I just wanted to say the day we're recording this is actually the home opener. So that's why we're doing our Cleveland Indians. It feels good that we're drinking Dortmunder. What a perfect beer for home opener day.
Wearing my Ohio shirt and everything right now.
That's right. Crafted in Ohio, baby. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comments. We will try and answer those as quickly and as accurately as we can. Mike, what do you say? We crack one of these open?
I am ready.
Let's do it.
3:45.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that feels good.
Back of the can right there.
That's right,
cheers, buddy.
Hey, cheers.
Boom. I like it.
At home, enjoy, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
I'm going to be a big nerd and pour mine into a glass and everything.
Oh, go for it. Of course.
Oh, 45-degree angle. Look at that. Did I get the perfect pour? I'm close.
Not bad. Not bad.
A little bit too much foam, but
that's okay. And that's the glass that the students that enroll in Hop College get, right?
Indeed.
That's a nice looking glass.
My drinking vessel of choice. You get a different one for each class. So this is the Nonic is the glass that you get at Beer 101.
Cool.
We have a bunch of other different ones: Snifter, a Tulip, and a Teku glass. If you're looking for a nerdy one, so very
cool. Well, then let's jump into it. Dortmunder Gold. I mean, this is our flagship lager. We've been brewing it since 1988. But the history of the beer itself, the style, it seems pretty rich. Mike, can you tell me a little bit about the Dortmunder style?
I would love to. So Dortmunder, it's not exactly the most common beer out there. We see a ton of, what do we see? Light beers today. We see Pilsners and Kolsch's and Munich Helles and things like that, but you don't see a ton of this particular style. And actually, for us, it's got a lot of history, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really a pretty brief style when it comes to history. It really started popping up not until the 1860s.
Okay.
If you're looking at a map of Germany, northwest. So the famous region for Germany and beer is Bavaria in the south, but the rest of Germany has awesome brewing traditions too. Dortmund is in the northwest. It's near Cologne, where the Kolsch comes from. And a new style of beer started to pop up there in the 1860s because of the Czech style Pilsner that began taking the continent by storm at that time. When the Czech Pilsner came out, it was totally revolutionary. We kind of view light beers today as probably unfairly, sometimes a little less flavored and so on. But this stuff was all the rage when it first came out. Beers tended to be darker and smokier. So now the people in Dortmund, a lot of people who work near in Dortmund happen to be coal miners. And I don't know about you, but if I'm hundreds of feet underground for 12 hours a day, I want to be able to come up and kind of throw something back at the end of the day that's nice and thirst quenching, right?
Sure.
So brewers in Dortmund started getting wind of this crazy, refreshing new style coming from the Czech Republic, and they say, we got to figure this out. So how do they do this? Industrial Revolution had just started to really take hold on the European continent. One of the biggest things that came from the revolution was railroads. So that makes it really easy for you to go from Northwest Germany down south to the Czech Republic, learn about this Czech Pilsner style that's starting to blow up, and take that technology back up to your own breweries in Dortmund. So actually, believe it or not, the Dortmund style lager is the first pale lager that ever existed in the entire country of Germany. We know so many other German styles more, but it's actually kind of one of the original German styles right there. Lasted for about a century, maybe. It was very popular in its hometown for a couple decades, but eventually, thanks to some things we see in the industries overall with some consolidation, and after, of course, the world wars that devastated the continent, the style just really wasn't the same. It got a little watered down. It wasn't quite as robust as it used to be. And now, actually, today, there aren't many Dortmunders out there. We, of course, make probably the best known American version. A couple other craft brewers will make one here or there. So it's kind of cool. It's the original pale German lager, but it's something that we're very well known for, but it's actually a relatively rare style.
And you brought up how when wars and things like that happened, how a lot of styles almost kind of disappeared. They almost went extinct, but they were almost revived thanks to, in part, American craft brewers.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty interesting to see. And for us, Dortmunder was one of our first beers that we brewed, correct?
Yes, indeed. Technically, it was the second beer we brewed. Elliot Ness actually beat it out. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if everyone out there, I don't know if you knew that too. But we kind of view Dortmunder, it's such a big part of who we are. Elliot Ness, also amazing. I love that beer.
Yes.
It is actually, it's part of my malt conversion that I had a couple of years ago, drinking low fills off the bottling line. Love a fresh.
Welcome to the party, Mike. Welcome to the party.
Right? So it's good to be here. It's good to be in the malt world. I love my hops too. But yes, Dortmunder is a style that's been essential for us since pretty much the beginning, especially it being kind of one of those beers that was similar enough to the typical lagers that were available in 1988 when we opened up. So, yeah.
So who developed the original recipe and how did Dortmunder come to be?
Yeah, so that actually goes straight back to the original source, our original brewmaster, Thane Johnson, who is a fellow that came to us from Christian Schmidt. So when Pat and Dan Conway opened up Great Lakes in 1988, not being brewers themselves, they had to find somebody who had that expertise to brew beer for them. And they stumbled upon Mr. Thane through this mysterious old device called the Yellow Pages. I don't know if you've heard of them before.
Yeah, I think I've seen one once.
And apparently it's this big thing called a book that you open up and it's got phone numbers. It's a weird thing.
I've rediscovered books since the shelter in place. So yes, it's very
it is. They look kind of like these things back
here.
Yeah,
very cool. Right? Yeah, nice.
So they ended up finding Thane and brought him out of retirement. And because we actually did not have any operating breweries in Cleveland in 1988. Schmidt's closed down in 84. And a fellow named Thane Johnson, you bet he knows how to brew some good German lagers. So we came up with the Dortmunder as an idea of Thane's to brew something a little bit more hefty and full-bodied than the typical beers that were out at the time, yet something that was also familiar enough to the American palate so that people wouldn't be totally overwhelmed. It's something inviting and approachable enough. So that's why it ended up being one of our first two beers along with Mr. Ness.
Well, you bring up the point about it being an approachable beer. And what I Dortmunder was one of the first craft beers that I got into.
Me too.
What I was attracted by was the way it looks. It looks like a beer, but not maybe the light dad beers that I was used to when I first started drinking. And there's just something kind of hefty about it, though, that like, oh, there's going to be something kind of full and rich to this. Maybe not exactly like the American rice lagers that were known kind of before the big craft boom.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's exactly, our version of the Dortmunder is pretty much hitting the nail on the head when it comes to what this style was originally supposed to taste like. So it is more than just, I love a good light American lager on a hot summer day, or when they're offered to me for free or whatever, right? Sure. But I will never say no to a beer. But the Dortmunder, what makes it distinguishes it as the craft offering, especially back in that context in the 80s, is the fact that it has both a good amount of malt heft to it. These Dortmunder style beers historically were brewed frequently for export. And as if you know a little bit of your brewing science, Brewing 101 here, alcohol is a preservative. The more alcohol content you have, you need more malted barley to get the higher sugar content. So that means since these beers were brewed for export, they wanted a higher ABV, a little bit more malt was used. Something also interesting about Dortmund, the water there happens to be very high in mineral content.
Oh.
And that's kind of the not sexy part of brewing right there is water chemistry, unless you're a huge nerd like me and they're like, oh yeah, pH and stuff. But water chemistry is important for making a great beer, and it guided a lot of early beer styles. So because Dortmund had such a hard water, especially high in things like sulfate, that sulfate is a compound that accentuates hop expression. So that meant this beer ended up being both malty and hoppy at the same time. But the key is that there's this, it's right down the middle. A lot of both, but not too much of either one. So the beer ends up being super balanced, pretty much perfectly balanced right down the middle. And I like to use the beer judge certification program guidelines, just like Cicerone program will use for its testing. You'll see that right there in the guidelines. It's they literally say a perfectly balanced lager. So,
well, we'll talk about that in a second. Just a little bit about the history back to Great Lakes. It wasn't always called Dortmunder Gold, correct?
That's true. Do you know what it was originally called? Am I stumping you?
The Heisman.
Oh, how'd you know? That's right. Can you make the pose? That's right. Right there.
Oh my God. I wasn't a football player.
The Heisman, yeah. So how did we come up with that name originally? We, when we opened up in '88, we wanted to draw attention to the Ohio City neighborhood, which at that time, it's the nearby side of Cleveland. I'm a little bit further west as well, west side, best side right now. Originally an east sider, but here I am. Ohio City, just west of downtown Cleveland, originally this great brewing hub, was unfortunately a little bit down on its luck in the mid-'80s when Pat and Dan were looking for a brewing site. But they chose the area because it was so rich in brewing tradition. Was probably also pretty affordable for two young guys starting a brewery. So they said, one of our first two beers, let's draw some good attention to the neighborhood here. And actually, believe it or not, John Heisman himself of the Trophy fame was born probably around Bridge Avenue and something like 38th Street. Yep. That's pretty cool. A lot of people know the Heisman. Let's name our original kind of paler lager after him. We thought it was a great idea. We even won a gold medal for this beer at the 1990 Great American Beer Fest. That's why we have the medal on the refreshed label art here, on all of our label art for Dortmunder. But then the Downtown Athletic Club in New York City caught wind, and they said, hey, that's kind of our name for our trophy. Sent us a little cease and desist, and the rest is history. Just renamed it for the style, where it's a Dortmund style lager. It won that gold medal. It does have that nice gold color that you were talking about before. And so we just went with that. And now it's our most popular.
Yeah, right. And, you mentioned the new label and everything. Very exciting that we gave Dortmunder a new look. It's actually had multiple looks over the years. We've changed the look of it multiple times, but we really love this new look. And especially the look was designed with the can in mind. And of course, I'd be remiss to show you.
Oh, yes.
Area.
Can you tell we're baseball fans?
Keep your eyes open for our special Cleveland Indians Dortmunder caps. I believe some of these
official craft beer of the Cleveland Indians.
But go Tribe. We can't wait till you guys are back on the field to watch it. And we
right.
want to let you know, if you're watching at home, we are about to start a guided tasting of Dortmunder Gold. Crack open a beer. If you have any questions or comments,
we haven't done that
section. We will answer them as soon as we can. And remember, our brew pub is delivering. You can order beer to your home if you're in the Cleveland area. Check all that information out at greatlakesbrewing.com. So, Mike, tell me a little bit. You kind of mentioned already the balance that's so important to Dortmund-style lagers. Let's kind of dive into the style tasting notes and the guidelines that you look for when you're trying to taste a good Dortmunder-style beer.
For sure. So, having already talked about the background of the city and all that, that kind of sets the stage for the water content and why the beer is brewed in a certain way. So, what we're looking for is a lot of malt character, a lot of hop character, but in certain ways, right? So when I think about the malt character of a beer like a Dortmunder, malt in the current climate, because we're so focused on hops, which I love hoppy beers, I love any style of IPA, but we tend to say equate malty with this like almost like absence of hoppiness. And malt is just this wonderful, rich, and so varied thing. And if you think about what malt is, a germinated, toasted barley seed is this natural connection with bread. So I think about a lot about bread flavors, especially when I drink these paler malty beers like Dortmunder. So I tend to think of things like white bread, a little bit of the crust, maybe a little bit of I've been on a huge toasted bagel kick lately. I don't like specifically that right there.
Uh-huh.
Those are the kind of malt notes that I'm getting. It's pretty soft and rounded. It's certainly not anything that's heavy or sweet. There's a difference between malty and sweet. A beer like a milk stout, that's sweet right there. That's sugar. This right here is toasty grain flavor. And I love that. Then on the hop side, we're definitely not thinking, we have a good amount of hop going on with this beer, but we're not thinking American hops, which are super citrusy and tropical and all of that, right? This is more of a classic continental European hop flavor. So a little bit of a spicy note to it. Maybe a little bit more focus on the bitterness itself to help balance out the malt sweetness. Then there's just a little slightest hint of citrus in there. We couldn't not put the smallest American touch on it. But use a tiny bit of Cascade hops in this one. But otherwise, it's a pretty traditional. We use all American ingredients here, so we're not using the exact European ingredients, but we're using the American approximations of them here. So 2 base malt, just a little bit of a caramel 30 malt to kind of simulate maybe what would normally be more of a Munich malt over there. And then just the light amount of hop to balance it out. Also key for us at Great Lakes, we have a proprietary lager yeast strain, which means that our lagers, first of all, nobody else can use that strain. If you're shopping for yeast at a yeast bank, White Labs or something like that, we're the only ones allowed to get that yeast for the yeast bank. So, and ours produces an especially distinct lagered character, very clean, not a lot of any ester content or anything like that, which is be kind of fruity. You're just smelling the malts and hops, and it's got that beautiful, smooth character and that nice, crisp finish. So yeah. I wish I were pounding this at a tribe game, and we will be pretty soon.
Oh,
perfect beer for that.
It's the perfect ballpark beer. It's really the perfect beer for every occasion. I mean, it's so smooth, crisp.
Especially now that it's in cans.
Yeah, absolutely. I could drink this in any occasion, and it goes great with food too. But smooth, crisp. And what I've always have loved about this beer, like you mentioned, was the balance. I remember we were doing kind of a staff guided tasting of Dortmunder, and they had everyone in the room close their eyes, and they asked, raise your hand if you think this is a malt forward beer or a hop forward beer. And what was amazing was it's almost every time we've done it, it's a 50-50 split. People saying, no, this is a malt forward, no, this is a hop forward beer. And whatever you're tasting, I mean, those are your taste buds, but it's just a testament to how balanced this beer really is.
It's a beautiful thing. These are the tough beers to make. To make a beer that's so clean, so smooth and crisp, that has consistency and good, still has good malt and hop flavor. These lager beers are really the tough beers to pull off. Not saying that brewing other craft styles is easy,
right,
but it's really tough to pull off a good lager. So the fact that we do that, I mean, this is 20% of our sales. We make a lot of beer at Great Lakes, 20th largest craft brewer in the U.S. The fact that such a huge portion of that is lager beer is just a great testament to what those guys in the brewery do.
And I love big hoppy American IPAs, hazies, all of that that's out right now that are super, super hot. But it really is kind of unique for Great Lakes to have our flagship beer be a lager, right?
Absolutely. It's a rare thing for craft brewers.
So
It's coming back. Lagers are coming back. But
yes,
for it to have been a 32-year-old lead beer
yeah.
is a little unusual.
So tell me a little bit, how does our lager then, Dortmunder Gold, kind of stack up against kind of the traditional style guidelines that you might have if we were to submit this to a competition?
Absolutely. So if I'm a BJCP judge or something at a competition, I mean, call me personally a little biased, but I really do think that our version of the Dortmunder hits the nail on the head. It's got the malt. It's got the hop. Neither one overpowers the other, as your story would attest to. It's got that clean, crisp. It's got a little bit of that. Also, you can almost sense a tiny bit of the mineral content from the water, that sulfate character. And I get that when I drink this beer. So I really think it hits the nail on the head. It's kind of what we do a lot at Great Lakes, is really nail those traditional styles extremely well. We have been in recent years branching out, as of course we have to, and everyone else is, making a lot of awesome new beers. Like we have a hazy IPA out right now, and we're going to have a lemon hefeweizen coming out in about a month or so. But our calling card historically has definitely been nailing these traditional styles, doing them extremely well. Pat and Dan are huge appreciators of those classic European styles. It's kind of what inspired a lot of our early brewings at Great Lakes, and we've kept doing that for the past 32 years. So if I'm a judge in a competition and I taste this beer, I'm like, is this guy from Dortmund or something like that? Is that how he brewed this beer? I think it really hits the nail on the head.
Well, it's a 5.8% ABV beer, 30 IBUs. It's just got enough of that bitterness just to balance out that malt.
Right.
It's just an excellent, excellent beer. We really appreciate you shedding some light on it, Mike.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Truly my pleasure.
Well, if you have any questions at home, please, again, leave them in the comments section. We're not streaming this live or anything. We're doing this recording, but we will try and answer any kind of questions or comments about it. We would love to hear your Dortmunder stories too. We know a lot of you out there watching have had this beer since the early 90s, late 80s, maybe even. We'd love to hear those stories.
Do you have a Dortmunder story other than the one that you just told?
I got to go to game 1 of the World Series last time the Cleveland Indians were in, and drinking a Dortmunder Gold in the standing section on that beautiful night.
Right.
We ended up winning that game. I mean, just that's one of my favorite memories of this beer. Absolutely. What about you?
Fantastic. Can't wait to do that in 2020 with the cans, right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, like I always think of, I mean, maybe I'm a classic Cleveland craft beer drinker, where it technically wasn't my first beer. My first beer was an Amstel Light with Bob Voss. If you're watching this, Bob Voss on the east side, miss you, man. Thank you for that first Amstel Light. But my second beer ever and my first craft beer was a Dortmunder. I was a good little boy. Didn't drink till I was 21. And I remember being at Panini's with friends or something like that, and not knowing anything about drinking beer truly. I probably had like 2 32-ounce pours of Dortmunder, and I felt really good after that. So that was that beer ever. I almost think that because Dortmunder was my first kind of like true beer experience right there, where I was with friends. It was right around my birthday, shortly after my birthday, so celebrating the 21st. And craft is always, and Great Lakes has always stuck with me ever since then. Thanks to those great memories that are attached to it. Obviously awesome beer, but then the great memories and stories that are attached to them too. So.
Well, Mike, thanks again so much for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Pleasure.
We hope the people at home enjoyed this too.
Yeah.
We can't wait to continue to bring more of this content on social media, but especially doing a true Hop College class with you someday at the brewery. We know we'll be able to do them again soon. It's just a matter of when. Keep an eye out on our website and our social media pages. We will announce when we bring those Hop Colleges back online. And remember, check out our website if you're interested in getting beer to go or delivered to you. We also have our beer finder if you're outside of Cleveland. And thanks again for joining us, everybody. If you're at home, one last cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, Mike. All right. We'll see you next time.